Ladies and gentlemen, this afternoon we are indeed very privileged to have Neingulo Krome, the Secretary General, Naga People's Movement for Human Rights, as our cultural guest. This session will be held under the topic Cultural Vibrance Fostering Brotherhood. The chairperson for the session will be Eno Tefiliateño, the tribunal member, Angami Students Union. Introduction will be followed by Pitsaja, which means elderly blessings, by Eno Kruvil Kiki. Tati Fe, an indigenous stringed instrument, will be presented by Vachazunyo, Kohima village. Greetings by Eno Lubizo Mere Kesie, President Angami Sports Association, which will be followed by speech from the cultural guests. There will be cultural presentations from various groups, including Angami Students Union, Chakesang Students Union, Kuki Youth and Students Union Kohima, Rengma Students Union, Sumi Apuyimi Kipimi Kugaklu Pugobuto, Ziliangrong Students Union, and summing up of the session. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome on stage the chairperson for the cultural session, Eno Tefiliateño, tribunal member, Angami Students Union.
Lievo viwe, Tiretono, Tetseteru, Zapuzaye pete kapie, Ukapenyavatsaya. Ugo, Nchie, cultural session isiba, Mu cultural session topic liro, cultural vibrance, fostering brotherhood isi. Tinidianu Vacha, Kasagi, Ukruzorali Keviko, Sizet Zuriet committee ke liye, ahi. Puti how nu organizing committee Angami Students Union ko zanu nu kenise ni ko pete zeklichawe. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the organizing committee, the Angami Students Union, I welcome each and every one of you to this auspicious program. Taking this privilege, let me also welcome our Sir Neingulo Krome, Secretary General, Naga People's Movement for Human Rights, our session speaker. Let me also take this opportunity to welcome the President and colleagues and his esteemed members of Chakesang Students Union, Kuki Youth and Students Union Kohima, Rengma Students Union, Sumi Apuyemi Kepimi Kugakulu Pogopoto area, Zelengren Students Union. We are honored and privileged to have you all. Without much ado, we shall start our program, our cultural session, with a blessing from our very own father and dad, Pitsaja Ino Kruvil Kiki. Puti kapia putsasaya.
Oi! Tu suiwe! Ta Angami let's punago Gefuge tahe Oga menabotobe bisade Getoge pu Geyoge di Gegyo to the way Migatoge zo to the way Bitiko zarno Jobe Angami nigo let's punago mette biso.
Ladies and gentlemen, a loose translation of the blessings invoked by Eno Kruvil Kiki goes as this. On the occasion of the Angami Students Conference, may God bless you all, and may the best be yours. And on behalf of all the elderlies, I convey my heartfelt blessings and greetings to you all. Thank you.
Apgo Kruvil Kiki, Bejewe, Pitsuteja, Zokolanu, Hego, Chris Saramego, Gaprenugo, Tedja to Quasidi to Padzilavo get to the way, Pejiwe, Chiliro, Ugo Tati Fe, Isiba, Mu, Buchazanyo, Kohima village, Ugo Vodi, Shirdi, Ugo Tati Fe, Haha, Kelibie, Ugo Peki, gets to Sudio, Puti Kapia, Ugo Tasaya.
Sono Dio le 是记舍的，嘟嘟，所以莫若哦，什么的哟嘞，什么的哟嘞，嘟嘟，哦嘿嘞，喂哦嘿嘞哦啊。哦嘿嘞，喂哦嘿嘞哦啊，嘟嘟，啊多着是为瑞拉啊有grief，啊多着是为瑞拉啊有grief，嘟嘟。哦嘿嘞，喂哦嘿嘞哦啊，哦嘿嘞，喂哦嘿嘞哦啊，嘟嘟，啊如果是为什么给怒火？啊如果是为什么给怒火？嘟嘟，哦嘿嘞，喂哦嘿嘞哦啊，哦嘿嘞，喂哦嘿嘞哦啊，嘟嘟。
Puchazinho Kohima village, Nuko pe jewe, ta feke vi to Guasalavodi, Uko Kehuva Pelekasala. Chiti Linuro, Uko greetings, Ino Lubizo Merek Sie, President Angami Sports Association Isiba, Mu Uko Capital Wushodi, Kenidi Sosa, Puti Sekele to the way.
Good afternoon to everyone. Nko cultural session how nu theme carry sedi bagyatla a kyakra die ho pusa sashe teni die be carry di pugesa sa chadu ho. Respectable person, chairperson, Mr. Tepulia Telnyo, and a respected session speaker, Neingulo Krome, Secretary General President ASU, and colleagues, all the partakers in this session, especially Chaisan Students Union, Kuki Students Union, Rengma Students Union, Sumi Students Union Pogoboto, Zilianrong Students Union. I want to especially thank them for being a partaker in our meet. I, on behalf of the Angami Sports Association, would like to give my thankful gratitude to the Angami Students Union for giving us ASA, Angami Sports Association, to be the session guest in this cultural program. We are very grateful that the Angami Students Union held its 29th Angami Students Union Biennial General Conference commemorating 75 years of Kohima Subdivision Students Conference and 50 years of Angami Students Union. I convey my congratulations to all the worthy past and the present office bearers who tirelessly given their efforts to this far, for which we are celebrating today. This is a time to introspect and retrospect the past failures and the achievements and draw a proper map to streamline, to channelize the potentials in a proper manner, to face the challenges and grab the opportunities that lies ahead. May this 29th Biennial celebration be a milestone achievement that brings closeness, togetherness, oneness, and undivided bonds of brotherhood that boost our people for greater heights. As ASU is celebrating its conference, I beg and apologize for those who are not familiar with Tenidie. I'll speak just a word in Tenidie. Kindly bear with me. Tie, Nyitu Tsadi, Kratatsa, Lesser Premier Tazeke Ba, Ju Nyitu Tsadi Lesser Premier Nike Bago, Kunye Zoshe, Urazu Kritsa, Urazu Setsa, Urazu Kritsa, Utemia Tahudia, Musala, Teke hu hau zegile yawinu, sededi, kevi kietsa morge sho nuna, subu petegi vorli nugetsa uke chawe. Nko angami mie kirgi unutuo, kirgi mie riegili mese, kirgi mie ta visa limotaro kenyo miri ta limotaya. Mie chatadaro weta vidu morsho. Mie kretatsdaro we mie mhosi du morsho. Mie mhozer yedi relikwe nyenye vedu daro. Mie kenuse mhozate vodaya. Mu unko skisasa banye getsupule. Unko ke pronuri mhatom hatsunuri. Mie unko me hotervdi Luzia, Vigasaginu, really do. Terhetsaginu, Krali do. Resumetsudi, Kevisa Krali Kenza, Musala, Peteguri, Terhete Yetsale, Ukevi Tokasale, Musidi, Kevisa Krabie, Nranatsuje, Mpotsuje, Ntemian Sayetsuje, Nton Zari Kralije. Teni nigile hauzedinu, viget seligetua, u asuginu merabadwe. Keni, tiche hepengunigiba, keni sedi, asu office bears the perpetuate you, asu kro, the prosegeba lesser category, keluga sotseaho, keviu uya.
Kapatau, Engineer Lubizo Merekasie, President Angami Sports Association, Pejiwe, Kenidi, Ziu Siro, Gatap Fudie, Sevori, U Angami Mego, Bahori, Usomi Megori, Shegasla, Pejiwe. For the convenience of all, we are conversing in Tenidie as well as in English, so please bear with us. Now we shall have a presentation hour, and let me take this time to thank our honored guest, Sri Neingulo Krome, Secretary General, Naga People's Movement for Human Rights, as well as our session guest, Lubizo Merekasie, his colleagues, and all members, all our honored guests who are present here in our dais. Now I give time to the comparers for the presentation.
Teritunu uko cultural guest sadi vo keba kebatau Neingulo Krome no vokili la uniwe kita zasi kitse bo sedi impesis na noslam pejiri bo sheta sedi volunteers ko ze ke seledamo. Ino Lubizo Merekasie, President Asa Norim pejiri sheta sedi volunteers ko ze ke selalelame. So share Asa Angami Sports Association office bearers ko Nigri, Nigo Pejiri, Nigo Banushi Tasadi, volunteers Kozek Segil Celedamo. Asa office bearers. Shiro Pizza vori pizzami teja sevori u ke pronimia krotho tsakesa oko kru krivil kiki apo no vori jabese hego tsakesla hego impezia we ke tsa zasikitse bosede impesisje. May I now call upon any representative from the Sumi Apuimi Kipimi Kakakulu to kindly stand on your feet and receive a small token of appreciation.
Representing ASU, I request leader Angami Cultural Group Sakhabama to please stand and receive a token of appreciation. I request Chakasang Cultural Organization representative to stand and receive the presentation. Ziliangrong Students Union. Okay, so the next, Mr. Imti Wapang, former General Secretary, NSF.
Ugo compares ko zero presentation committee go puti go sekesla nyuko pe jewe. Ugo chetiun liro dikepu speech cultural guest isiba chi puti kabie ugo kabetau Neingulo Krome Secretary General Naga People's Movement for Human Rights chi puti kabie put sekesa tsaya.
Mr. Chairperson, sir, President Angami Students Union and his colleagues, convener organizing committee of this conference and his team, distinguished guests on the dais, Krivil Kiki, our elder, President Angami Students Association, Sports Association and his team, Chakasang Students Union, Kuki Students Union, Rengma Students Union, SAKK Pokuboto, and Ziliangrong Students Union. Ladies and gentlemen, fellow brothers and sisters, as you prepare for the 29th Angami Students Union Biennial General Conference to commemorate the 75 years of Kohima Subdivision Students Conference and the 50 years of Angami Students Union, your president said, and I quote, "The natural Angami Naga ways of life and norms to enable the real essence of doing what is right even if nobody is doing it, and the principled ways of not doing what is wrong even if everybody is doing it, are two concepts we aspire to reflect upon." Unquote. What can be more befitting at a time when our people and communities are faced with so many crossroads? It is indeed a great pleasure and an honor for me to be a part of this rare and most auspicious occasion. I am also emotionally touched with this initiative of the Angami Students Union for bringing together the members of the then Kohima Subdivision Students Conference, which happened some 75 years back, especially at a time when the Naga society seems to be fracturing one after the other, and for reminding us how Nagas came together in fraternity and brotherhood with all humility in the past and not about breaking away from each other. And as we are about to witness the distinctive cultural performance of each of these tribes or communities which are inherent from our ancestors as a way of life which defines who we are and what we are, I really do wish all the very best to all the cultural themes of this cultural session in our bid to foster stronger brotherhood with our cultural vibrances. However, before we begin the cultural session, allow me to share a few moments of thoughts in our lifelong history of war and peace with the government of India and Burma in simplest terms and analysis. Our Naga country was invaded, has been devastated, and under occupation for nearly as long as the Kohima Subdivision Students' Conference was formed 75 years ago. Our elders resisted and fought these occupational forces all their lives and sacrificed everything. Those were the days and years when hundreds, thousands Nagas were killed, tortured, maimed for life, and women and children raped and murdered, while entire villages were burned to ashes, and people had to survive in the jungles like animals for years, while many had to seek shelter in the neighboring states and territories to survive. But all this went unknown, untold, and unheard by the rest of the world and even by the Indian people. The Indian army therefore had a free hand to do whatever they wanted under the Armed Forces Special Powers Act of 1958, with unlimited powers to shoot and kill any Naga on mere suspicion with full legal impunity, empowered by the government of India. The first Prime Minister of India, Mr. Jawaharlal Nehru, even proclaimed, "Whether heaven falls and all the rivers runs red with blood, I will not allow Nagas to be independent." Another Prime Minister of India, Mr. Morarji Desai, said, "I will exterminate all the Nagas and I will not have any compunction." Entire elderly Naga generation lived and died under the shadow of such draconian laws and attitudes of the government of India. This was one chapter of the Naga story which I wanted to share in the simplest term to today's Nagas in the person of those of you who are here today. But over the last few decades, and particularly after the second ceasefire of 1997, the world is not so ignorant about the situation in Nagaland anymore. We have filed legal petitions in the Supreme Court of India and also in the High Courts challenging the constitutional validity of the Armed Forces Special Powers Act and other draconian laws. We have submitted written statements and made oral interventions in the United Nations Human Rights Council and other relevant human rights mechanisms and agencies on indigenous issues and expert mechanisms on many other international forums. The government of India was even compelled to constitute inquiry committee to study and investigate into the excesses committed under the Armed Forces Special Powers Act. All these UN agencies and international human rights bodies, including India's own Jivan Reddy Committee, recommended for the repealing of this act, although the government of India refused to comply till date. Nevertheless, as I mentioned, the world, including the Indian civil societies, human rights and democratic movements, etc., are not ignorant anymore about the excesses committed by the government of India through its military occupation against the Naga people. It is only a matter of time when India will be made answerable to all the excesses committed by its military, although India has been questioned on more than one occasion during the Universal Periodic Review carried out by the United Nations in the past and in recent years too. But how are we going to deal with our own Naga situation? This question has now become one of the biggest problems confronting our people and all sections of the society. The problems would not have magnified had we left the issue to the wisdoms of the negotiators, although the matters has gone much beyond that now. This was also possible when there were no multiple national governments, for which people are now saying all national workers and groups should unite, which again is a very far cry. In the first ceasefire and Naga political talks between the federal government of Nagaland under the Naga National Council and the government of India, the then Prime Minister of India, Mrs. Indira Gandhi, is said to have offered Nagas to take anything under the sun except sovereignty. Nagas refused, and the talks ended with no breakthrough. In the present and second ceasefire and political talks between the NSC and IM and the government of India, which have now entered the 24th year, a framework agreement was signed on the 3rd of August 2015, which has again run into rough weather with the government of India going back on some of its words. In the meantime, another agreement called the Agreed Position was signed by the government of India with a combined 7 Naga national political groups on the 17th of November 2017. This time around, the Naga flag and the Naga Yazabo, or constitution, has now become the issue of contention. And we do not know if there ever will be any meaningful resolution of the problem, as it will be in the best interest for the government of India to keep the issue dragging on, whereby Nagas will be made to fight among themselves and against each other, perhaps till the end of time. But no matter what, I want to repeat, no matter what, life will go on. And with or without political solution or agreement, we must live our own Naga life, which should be free and self-dependent, for which we must continue to nurture our culture, uphold our customary ways of life, and practice our traditional knowledge with more passion and dedication. This is also nothing new, and we only need to reinvigorate our social organizations and tribal bodies, strengthen our village councils and its auxiliary bodies. Thank you, Angami Students Union and Kuknalim, fellow Nagas.
Thank you very much, sir, for your words of encouragement. Quote, but no matter what, life will go on, and with or without political solution or agreements, we must live our own Naga life, which should be free and self-dependent, for which we must continue to nurture our culture, uphold our customary ways of life, and practice our traditional knowledge with more passion and dedication, unquote. Thank you for sharing with us the past history of hardships endured by our forefathers, and also thank you, sir, for instilling and imbibing in us the essence of true brotherhood. Thank you once again, sir. Chieliro, puti kapie, ugo compares ko chalake sir sosadio, mu chieliro ugo cultural presentation so sir puti balido. Now we shall have a cultural presentation, which is in alphabetical order. That is Angami Students Union, Chakasan Students Union, Kuki Youth Union Kohima, Rengma Students Union, Sumi Apuyemi Kepimi Kugakalu Pugopoto, Zelengrong Students Union. 75 years ago, we were associated and we had been associating under the banner Kohima Subdivision Students Conference. And in due process, we separated and formed our own students' union. However, the legacy left behind by our elders, by our seniors, continues to linger on. Our spirit of brotherhood continues to linger on. And as we celebrate the 75 years of Kohima Subdivision Students Conference, we take this opportunity to welcome our Chakasan Students Union, Kuki Youth and Students Union Kohima, Rengma Students Union, Sumi Apuyemi Kupimi Kugakulu, Zelengrong Students Union. Now we shall have a cultural presentation from each units. Now I extend this time to the comparers.
The Angami Cultural Troupe will be presenting on behalf of the Angami Students Union. Ladies and gentlemen, the Angami Cultural Troupe Sakabama, representing the Angami Students Union. A huge round of applause for the Angami cultural troupe Sakhabama representing the Angami Students Union. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Chakisang Cultural Organization representing the Chakisang Students Union for their cultural item. Now the time is given to the Kuki Youth and Students Union, Kohima.
Katame, katame, umay sa lama tutoy, sa tilu kakame, katame, katame, bede nga tutoy, sa tilu kasunay, lilililililay, lililililay,
Praise God. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I bring greetings from the office of Sumi Apyamikipimik Hakulu. First of all, I give my hardest congratulations to the Angami Students Union in attaining 50 years of its existence. I thank our president, Angami Students Union president, for giving me this time and privilege. First of all, I would like to seek an apology to the Kohima Sub-Divisional Student Council members. The 5 tribes will be performing today, but Semi-Apuyam could not perform today. The reason was, as such, the cultural troops which were preparing faced a big problem, which was that the problem leading to be issue leading with COVID-19, and for which we have to cancel the cultural troops to come over to Kohima on the 11th hour itself. Simi Apuyam ekip Mika Kakulu, along with the 24 village under Poboto subdivision, regret to say that we have failed the Kohima Subdivisional Student Council. But yes, our spirit, and I believe our brotherhood, will never go in vain, but it will go stronger. The bond itself will go stronger. The Simi Apuyamis are always indebted to the Angamis. Why? It is because, be it in the field of education or be it in the field of religion, we owe it to you. Those first educated people, they learned in Tenedi medium and not in English medium. The first step of Apuyam education started with Tenedi language itself. And when our president invited me to his office and asked me to inquire about this Kohima Sub-Divisional Student Council, I started inquiring about this. And then I found out that during the early 1940s, many of the Apuyamis left their villages to study in Kohima itself, not in English medium, but they studied in Angami, Tenedi medium. I'm sorry. And yes, the Apuyamis have always considered the Angamis as our brother and Chakasans as our brothers. And our fathers and our forefathers have been telling us the story about how we lived together once, and as a brother, how we lived. And yes, the Apuyamis itself has also contributed a lot in building this Kohima itself. Let me read out some of the points. It is like this, and here it goes. The Simi Apuyami has contributed their days of labor in building the government high school, which itself, it is present still today. And even in Zubza, Kohima to Zubza, the Apuyami built 10 to 11 miles. The Deputy Commissioner Office itself, while plowing its sites, the Apuyami worked for 2 to 3 days. And even government high school, government hospitals and all, without taking any wages, because we Apuyami believe that as a family don't owe each other. And as a family, we don't take wages from each other. Today, the cultural item which we were to present was called Apilakwo and Avikzuko, which means warrior dance as well as taming of Mithun's head. The Apuyamis and the Nagas always regarded Mithun as the highest breed of animal, and of which the Apuyami Kitmik Kakulu will also like to present to our president of Angami Student Union a shawl of Sumi. This shawl is called Avi Kipi. Avi means Mithun, and Kipi means Kiyi means killing. Avi Kipi, when translated into English, means a shawl worn by those who have shown feast of merit by killing Mithun. As suggested of its name in olden days, Avi Kipi was worn by those who have shown a feast of merit to the entire village community. Hence, while regretting the inability to participate in the cultural event due to COVID-19 pandemic situation, we the Simi Apuyami Kipimike Kakulu would like to present our most prized item to the Angami Students' Union President on the auspicious occasions of attaining of 75 years of Kohima Sub-Divisional Student Council and 50 years of Angami Student Union. Through our most prized token of solidarity, we would like to strengthen our olden ties among the former Kohima Sub-Divisional Student Council and renew our brotherhood in a vigorous way. I would like to present this shawl to our President. President, please stand up and receive our gift. In the olden days, this was worn by those people who eschewed a feast of merit. But we find our President worthy because he has hosted such a big event, and we take it as a feast of knowledge, feast of brotherhood, and feast of unity. We give our most respect to the ASU, and as well as everyone present here. Thank you for giving us this time, and may this day be a glorious day in the history of Kohima Sub-Divisional Student Council. Thank you all.
Ladies and gentlemen, before summing up, we would like to take a brief moment for presentation. We would like to show our appreciation to Ms. Onan Nanti for her presence in our midst this afternoon. She is the brand ambassador for Nagaland tourism. Ms. Onan, may you kindly rise wherever you are and accept this token of a love and appreciation from the Angami Students' Union. The organizers would also like to acknowledge the Global Concepts, the prize sponsors of the exhibition and competition of indigenous games and activities. Any representative from the Global Concepts may kindly rise up and receive this token from the volunteers. And now the time is given to the chairperson once more for summing up of the cultural session.
Cultural vibrance, fostering brotherhood in its true essence. The bond we have amongst us continues to grow. Thank you, Angami Students Union. Thank you, Chakasan Students Union. Thank you, Kuki Youth and Students Union Kohima. Thank you, Rengma Students Union. Thank you, Mr. Sohe, President Sumi Apumi Kipimi Kugakulu, for your solidarity message. Thank you once again. Before we wind up, let me take this time to invite our indigenous game sponsors, that is Local Concepts.
Respected our chairperson, respected Sir Neingulo Krome, Secretary General, NPHMR, Sir Lubizo Merekisiye, President Angami Sports Association and colleagues, senior ASU leaders, President ASU office bearers, convener organizing committee of this conference, all members and conference of the managing committee and officials, President Chagasan Students Union, Kuki, Renma, Sumi, and Zilendron Students Union, dignitaries, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Global Concepts Nagaland, I would like to express our sincere appreciation to the Angami Students Union for giving us this privilege to be a part of this precious 29 Angami Students Union Biennial General Conference, 75 years of Kohima Subdivision Students Union, and 50 years of Angami Students Union. Taking this beautiful and precious moment, I would like to share a few concerns and also a few activities undertaken by Global Concepts Nagaland. Global Concepts Nagaland was formed to promote environmental friendly projects which have the potential to uplift, enhance, and supplement our economy by engaging unemployed youths, housewives, and farmers with a medicine, doing global and local.
Under the umbrella of GCM, we also have cooperative societies and self-help groups engaging in different activities. Recently, with the support and guidance given by our Honorable Chairman to NKVIB, Dr. Nipreso Kidichu, with the local concept Nagaland in collaboration with the Nagaland Khadi and Village Industries Board, conducted skill training for rural employment in Kohima, Dimapur, Peren, and Kifiri. The outcomes of the training was overwhelming. Today, with employment opportunities in the government sector having already reached its saturation point, unemployment is the greatest challenge our society is facing. But the problem of unemployment is even more tripling in a small state like Nagaland. 30% of our population is comprised of youth, and Nagaland has the highest unemployment rate among the states in India at 21.4%. It is not possible or easy to absorb all these job seekers in government sector alone. Therefore, we need to look forward in self-employment and entrepreneurship. Fortunately, the government is providing several schemes and assistance to ease the unemployment issues. And we need to educate our people to avail and use it purposefully. We are very happy to be a part of this indigenous game organized by the Angami Students Union. During those days, where these indigenous games were practiced by our forefathers and ancestors, it is learned that unity was so strong that everyone obeys the order passed by the chief of the village. Love was also abandoned as the villagers shared their products and things to each other. There is no question of integrity, as we learned that they did not use lot or key system. There is also no question of dignity of labor. Both the parents collectively worked to support their family. Their kids, when they reach the age of puberty, join their peer groups and help their parents in the fields. Fetching of water, carrying of firewood is done early in the morning before going to the field. Nobody spend the whole day to do those works. Villagers collectively build houses to the needy one without payment. They did not enjoy, our forefathers, they did not enjoy the facilities like we are enjoying today, but they were independent and self-reliant. We need to inherit all this good culture and habits and practice it in our lives. These days, we are sorry to see that many youths solely depended on government job and expecting their parents to provide all their needs, even in their 30s and 40s. We are also sorry to see that many of our youth sitting, idling the whole day, expecting government job, but businesses taken up by the non-local people, even in rural villages too, forget about urban areas. Now, a time has come to us to retrospect. Let the prospective students or youth do their best in their studies by excelling to get job through competitive exam and help our people. Let other youth also take businesses, entrepreneurship, and do their best so that our society will be a good place to live in. May God bless us all. May God bless Angami Students Union to give its full potential and bright reflection to our society. Good wishes to all the competitors, and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tapukedjo, Local Concepts, Nagaland. Now, we have come to a conclusion, and before we wind up, I would like to thank Sir Neingulo Krome, Secretary General, Naga People's Movement for Human Rights, for your presence and for your beautiful speech. I would also like to thank Mr. Krovil Kiki for his blessings I would also like to thank Fuchazunyo Kohima Village for the Tati Fe. Would also like to thank Mr. Lubizo America CA, President Asa, for his greetings, and I would also like to thank his colleagues for their presence. Thank you, Angami Students Union Cultural Troop. Thank you, Cultural Troop from Chakasan Students Union. Thank you, Kuki Youth and Students Union Kohima. Thank you, Rengma Students Union. Thank you, Mr. Sohe, President Sumi Apuyemi Kepimi Gogakalu. And thank you, everyone, for your presence and making this cultural session a grand success. Now I extend this time.